Well, hello and welcome to this special English Greyhound Derby preview, sponsored, of course, by Star Sports, the big event. This is very much an Irish angle. With me is, uh, I think, the man who pretty much oversees most of Irish Greyhound racing these days, Ian Fortune. We're very much a broadcasting legend, all-round good guy. I think broadcaster, presenter, journalist.
Keep
You've
going,
got it
Fox.
all,
Keep going. You're doing
and you're
okay. You're doing
and
okay.
you're a top bloke as well. Irish Challenge, you've won the last 3?
Yeah, 5 of the last 6. Yeah,
You wanna
but
rub it
but
in?
the last 3, yeah. Yeah, it's been a good period.
Mm.
We've won as many from the turn of the century nearly than we have done in the history of the event. I think we're up to 18 nearly. We're getting there. So it's been a great competition for us. I think it's grown more in importance in recent years, and it's the same faces that appear back every year because they know what it means to go deep into this competition. And quite a few of our trainers now know what it feels like to win it. And that's what brings them back. There's nothing like an English Derby, for an Irishman to come over and to claim that trophy and bring it home. It means a lot, you know what I mean? And a lot of support at home.
How do you weigh up the Irish entry this year as compared to previous years?
Listen, it's always hard to weigh it up in terms of previous years. A lot depends on the home challenge more so than the Irish challenge. We're generally going to come pretty strong, and I think this year I'd say we're probably stronger than we have been for quite a few years because we have Bockos Diamond. But he is tipping the scales a little bit. If you take him out of the equation, this is greyhound racing. Anything can happen. Then all of a sudden becomes a bit more muddled and muddied. There's probably a stronger UK challenge than we've seen in a long time. And there's 2 or 3 dogs at the top representing the home team that we would very much like to still be part of ours. So we can't count our chickens because, it's a long, long way to that final night. And, you know, we're in this game long enough, Hobbsy. Obviously, you're in it considerably longer than I am.
Thank you.
But things can happen with greyhounds. But by all accounts, if they all stay fresh and well, I expect Buckos Diamond to land the spoils come, final night.
I mean, he arrives with, I think, superstar status. The last time I think a greyhound arrived on these shores with that sort of reputation, same trainer, of course, I'm talking about Claire's Rocket.
Hmm.
Now, Claire's Rocket, ultimately, I think, finished 3rd in that derby. You think he'll go a couple better?
I
Bockos
do.
Diamond.
I do. I think, listen, Claire's Rocket was a monster. There's no question about it. I equate Bockos Diamond more to Premier Fantasy. That type of grain, probably more consistent than Box is massive early speed. Claire's Rocket had everything. Don't get me wrong. He was brilliantly fast, but again, touch draw dependent at times and not as consistent at the traps as the likes of a Bockos Diamond. Now we saw him miss it in the juvenile. Don't get me wrong, but that was his first run back, fresh and well, and that showed. You could see his nose peeking through that second before the traps opened, and that tells its own story. I spoke to Graham only 24 hours earlier at the Kirby Memorial Final down in Limerick. I got the sense where I think it was referenced earlier on with Lofty that it was like a paid trial. And listen, if we get £10,000 out of it, so be it. But this dog isn't fully tuned, and for him to run as well as he did for so long in the race after the start, I think is a sign that he has trained on, and that is an issue. He did so much racing last year, was so brilliant so often. The 2 runs he did in Shelburne Park in particular, the semi-final run obviously is one of the greatest runs I've ever seen from racing greyhound. And what was it, 2 rounds earlier or 3 rounds earlier when he broke the clock the first time, I've never seen anything like them. And to produce 2 runs like that in the competition, you just fear that he may have done too much too soon as a greyhound and go over the top. But like, he's trained by the master trainer. Graham Hollands is taking his time with him. We know he's been trialing well. I get regular updates from Graham Box. He all he wants to do is ring you and talk about the dog. So all signs suggest that he is as well as he has ever been, and I think that's ominous for his rivals.
I think he arrives with a record of 16 wins from 18 starts as a wide seed. Presumably, he'll stay as a wide seed. He's assured of pretty good draws throughout the event, and that could be crucial.
He's assured a good draw once he's starting. Obviously, he is a dog you could run from the inside or the middle. We've seen him in trials. We've seen him in solos out front and in front of Derby class greyhounds. He doesn't stay wide. He's not a drifter. I'd worry about a true wide seed that stays wide and drifts around corners around Toaster. But he's the type of dog that goes up hard. If there's dogs on his inside, he'll keep going straight until there's freedom and room, and then he cuts across. So I think it's 100% the correct decision to keep him as a wide seed because he is guaranteed that draw and he can get around dogs. Whereas if you're in between dogs, you miss the kick a slight bit, you never know what's going to go in, you never know what's going to go out. Whereas he'd be very unlucky to get a dog in trap 5 that's going to dive right. You know, they may take a step right, but even then, it allows him then have room to go around again. And we've seen him do it once or twice in the Irish Greyhound Derby. So hopefully that'll be the case in Toaster. I'm conscious to talk about a few more of them because, you know, like it's not a case of just turning up and winning it. You know, he has got some exceptional greyhounds to take on. You know, particularly from his own kennel. Like it's not, he's not even, you know, like this isn't one where you're coming over and Graham Holland has pinned all his hopes to this fellow. Like he is, I think Graham is 3 in the top 5 in the betting.
Bockos Diamond aside, let's go through some of the other
Yeah.
leading Irish challengers from the English-born Graham Hollands kennel.
Irish trained.
Thank you. Bombay Pat, I think, has done nothing wrong in his visits at Toaster. That trial stakes, when I think he beat March on Freddie, was as good a trial stakes as we've seen and has impressed everyone.
Probably the second most talented greyhound in Ireland. Wouldn't be my second choice for the Derby. We know enough about him at this point. He's always been hugely talented. It's the first 10 yards are his issue. He has stunning early speed. Don't get me wrong. He's sprinting early speed, but he just is not fluent at boxes. I don't think I can ever tell you any night he's flown from traps. If he came away on level terms with, say, the third dog to hit the ground, he's doing well. He's always going to give him that length and a half at traps. In a Derby, I don't know if you can really get away with that. Probably more chance of him getting away with it at Shelburne than there is at Toaster. But would it be surprised me seeing him in the quarterfinals, semi-finals as favourite or second favourite to win a Derby? Absolutely not. But I think there's more pluses with a few of the other dogs. But again, when it comes down to engine and determination and just sheer talent, he's right up there.
Okay. I'm keeping with the Graham Holland kennel and the theme at the moment, albeit big respect to the defending champion who we'll come to. But Cheap Sandwiches, second in the Irish Derby last year. Doesn't sound like a Derby winner, but he went pretty close, albeit behind a champion in Bockos Diamond. But yeah, again, he's got everything, isn't he?
Cheap Sandwiches, like it's it. I was always told, my father always said, you have to name a dog to win a Derby. I'm not sure Cheap Sandwiches was named to win a Derby, but I'll tell you one thing. But for Buckos Diamond, he would have been a brilliant Irish Derby winner. He ticks all the boxes for me. I really like how he's run Toaster. He looks really at home around the place. He's such a fluid mover. This is a greyhound who showed real promise at the start of his career in the Lee Strand over 550, an A3 competition, but an A3 in name only. Very much like the Maiden Derby, dogs are sort of laid off for 3 or 4 months with a view to getting into the Lee Strand. And then so I moved to Shelburne, a couple of 525s. Was probably find the 525 run to the corner a touch sharp from, again, green inexperienced, but it was when he stepped back up to 550. The leaps and bounds he came on in those couple of months around the Derby time was phenomenal. He was brilliant through the Derby. And again, but for Bockos Diamond, it would have been a sensational Irish Derby winner. This is a proper greyhound. I didn't find out until Derby final night that actually one of the part owners lives literally, she was reared 200 yards around the corner from me where I live now. So got chatted to them, a great bunch. One of the fathers is very much involved in greyhounds back in the day. And yeah, listen, I'm sure they'll come in their droves to support this dog. He would be my choice if Bockos Diamond wasn't in it. This is the greyhound I'd be back in the Derby.
So as much as Tom's the best won Irish Derby and then an English Derby, and that is of course what Bockos Diamond is trying to do, the reigning champion, the defending champion, is Da for Liam Dowling. And that was an extraordinary story last year. So many years that Liam has tried and gone close to winning an English Derby. So there wasn't anybody at Toaster, apart from perhaps one or two of his rivals on the night, that would have begrudged the Dowlings that victory. It was a famous victory, an emotional victory. Only a handful of dogs have ever gone back to back. He's still pretty short in the market. He's in the, top 10 or something, maybe.
Yeah, a bit bigger than that, I'd say. I think the engine's still there.
Yeah.
He's just not as sharp as he once was in terms of the first 50. But like he'll be going down the back straight as fast as any greyhound, staying on very strongly every night. Liam Dowling hasn't done an awful lot with him over the last 6 months. Like, he's given him every opportunity to arrive here with a chance of defending his title. I'm definitely up there amongst his biggest fans. I caught on to him pretty early. I backed him at big price of in the Irish Derby the year before last. Went out in the semi-finals and trap one inexplicably, perfectly housed, just set to be in the final. Wasn't meant to be, and he was my choice last year. Thank God, it was one of the rare ones where I got right. And yeah, I was hoarse after the Derby final last year. I actually watched it alongside Plunkett Matthews, who I met this morning in the airport. So maybe it's a sign. Maybe it's a sign. The laddie da. Listen, again, he's more of a dog I would be backing each way, progressing rise. Don't expect to see him doing any massive stunning runs. I'm not sure he's going to be doing 28:58 anymore, but there is nights where he will pop. You never know. You never know. But the legs are just that little bit older, and it probably just takes him a little longer to get going. But, as I said, Liam Dowling is not a man to dismiss too lightly.
Peter Cronin's got a nice dog, isn't he? Randolph Scott's. Your
He's got two nice dogs.
much missed father would remember the actor of the same name, an old Western cowboy actor, I think, Randolph Scott. Now, Randolph Scott, not too sure who named him, but fantastic and eye-catching the first time he ran. I thought, wow. But yeah, he ran second in the Easter Cup, so that form generally is pretty rock solid. How'd you see his
A dog who had issues. A dog who had issues with his constitution. Like, he'd run a big race as a pup, and then like he'd wobble in the car park, and it'd be another race or two before he'd shine again. And they took time, they put him off and just to work on him. And every time I've spoken to Peter, it just tells me, don't sleep on Randolph Scott's. Have a few quid. Fast greyhound. Absolutely came to life in the Easter Cup. Was brilliant in the semi-finals. Ran a hell of a race in the final behind Hobbsy. Just, yeah, really fast greyhound. I get the impression that Peter really fancies this dog to go deep into the competition. Peter has been runner-up on more than, I think, 2-3 occasions. Tinwall Bish, Kildare, Croker's Champ, I think, may have been second or third. So like, he's been knocking on the door. He's knocking on the door, and don't sleep on his other runner, Solomio. He was well backed ahead of the Kirby Memorial as a dog with only one run on his card. I think that says it all. He's a half-brother to the aforementioned Kildare, who became Mr. Chalm, Derby runner-up. Honestly, he's a carbon copy of him. Probably not a lightning starter, but that's coming. He has terrific early speed, tends to drift off the opening bend. That's probably inexperience, but he motors down the back, and he's staying better with each run. I think at big prices, Solomio can certainly run well, but again, I wouldn't say there's an awful lot between Peter's duo, and both of them are more than capable of going deep into the competition. I'd love to see Peter win the Derby. Like, it'll be tremendous, because he is one. Like, he's a diehard. He's here, it seems to be every year.
Paul Hennessy, second last year, won the English Derby twice, got numerically a very strong challenge this year.
He does. Some very fast greyhounds, some very strong greyhounds. The leader would most certainly be Boyle Sports Bob, who it sparked Orkwood in Shelburne Park the last night. I think that's very harsh. I really do. I was terribly harsh. Monstrously fast greyhound. We saw him last year, finished second to the laddie da. Again, sharpness is going to be his issue. There are going to be a lot of dogs in front of him on nights, and he'll have to do it the hard way. At big prices, I wouldn't be surprised if JT Craze went deep into the competition. He'd be my sort of all the Irish trained runners, the one I think he was 100-1 in places, 66-1 general. I have a nibble on that.
So in terms of Paul's runners, Len, you'd have him maybe above Lenny's Desire, Hello Diego.
Just in terms of betting proposition, Lenny's Desire is still very much the unfinished article. Huge engine. Paul thinks an awful lot of him. He'll need to learn very quickly. I don't think Hello Diego will be winning a Derby. He does plenty right. He goes up strong, and he finishes strongly. He tends to drift around those opening two bends, loses his position, and gets going again. You can't afford to do that in Derby class. He did in the maiden Derby, got away with it. I don't think he'll get away with it in the Derby itself.
Untold Rufia?
Really nice dog. Again, I haven't seen an awful lot of him. He won our National Puppy Stake last year. Did everything right on the occasion. David Byrne grew up around greyhounds. He only has a license a short while, but I wouldn't be worried about that. Like he's been literally around greyhounds since he was born. His father Noel trained plenty of greyhounds. He was a shrewd man, and David knows the time of day. He also has Untold Dollar. Untold Dollar comes back. He's the Bombay Pat sort of end of things. Doesn't fly from traps. Huge engine, massive pace. Could go deep as well. Listen, both of those dogs will need luck in running.
Pat Buckley, always to be respected. Again,
Yeah,
English Derby winning trainer.
strange sort of year for Pat in the sense where like some of his established stars didn't quite make it. I would have loved to have seen Hope's Teddy in it. Just wasn't meant to be. Um, he, I think he had a couple of really nice dogs. Clone Ice Dog looks really nice, but very inexperienced. That's an issue. Balnabola Jim is after coming back from a grassless injury. He was all but in fact an Irish Derby finalist. Like he pulled up lame in the semi-finals, when certain to qualify, and he recently came back, ran well in the Shelburne Open 600. But big 90-pounder. So what's that? 41 kilos in your money? Like it's a lot to ask. He's not a flying trapper, but he's loads of boot. Could run well in a few rounds. Don't sleep on him in heats. Sing Along Molly is the one I'd be a little bit interested in. I am worried that she's never been around, but she ran so well in the Shelburne Open 600. And just top bitch market, something like that. She's definitely worth a little nibble.
And the Matthews family, again, regular visitors to the English Derby, and to Toaster especially, has
Great
supported it.
supporters of it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the point. They make a point of saying, no, do you know what? We need Toaster to work us. And they are very much like, don't get me wrong, like they want to make a few quid and they want to back winners and have their own winners and whatnot. But I feel they sort of feel obliged to support any venture in greyhound racing. They've been great supporters of Toaster, and they're coming over with two young greyhounds who are far from the finished article. Bubbly Charger and Pain Barrier, both very, very fast. Bubbly Charger would be my idea of the one that's going to go furthest. It'd be great to see him going well for the Bubbly Syndicate. They lost the good dog they bought off the Matthews last year in the Derby, and I think they got this fellow as they have a half share in him. I don't think they paid top dollar, and I think they're more than happy with their purchase. Obviously, he was third in the Kirby Memorial, very fast, getting better each and every night. Inexperience is going to be an issue there. He actually debuted in the Kirby, which tells you a lot, because the Matthews don't cut corners, and if they put him in unraced, they knew they had a good one. And his progression to the Kirby, you just look at his card, like it was 28.80, 28.50, 28.30, and it looked like a point he was going to be doing 28 seconds before long. Yeah, he's a dog that could be anything. Bubbly Charger, he'd be my choice over Pain Barrier, who probably does lack a yard or two early.
So 7 Irish-based trainers involved, 31 entries now. I'm pretty certain the Bockos Diamond is your number one pick, but give us a couple of others maybe at a price that should go well.
Well, Chief Sam, I just thought he should be clear second favourite. But the fact that Bockos Diamond is a reason he's not. Does that make sense? Like proper Eris, a proper Greyhound, Bombay Pat are both proper Greyhounds, but Chief Sandwiches should be second favourite. But it's a mental thing. It's just the way punters think. You know what I mean? We'll have to go for something for second favourite that's not Graham Holland, but he should be second favourite. And just JT Craze at a massive price. Again, little nibbles if you got decent prices, and maybe watch them, because their price aren't completely fold. The likes of Solomio, I'd keep an eye on. Randolph Scott's as well, Peter Cronin's duo. But like, there's so many talented dogs coming over, and as you mentioned, 7 Irish trainers. 4 of them have won an English Derby. One of them is a Hall of Fame trainer, and another one has had 2, maybe 3 runners up in the English Derby. And the one we haven't mentioned is David Byrne, who literally only has his license and is destined to be a decent trainer, or a good trainer going forward. So yeah, we're coming over with some firepower, and hopefully 31 of them will progress to the second round. You never know what might happen thereafter.
And finally, just on a general point, you've seen, the various noises and stories that have come out from Toaster this year. There's certainly a renewed vigor, it seems, and anticipation, I think, in the great event. We call it the world's greatest greyhound race. I know there's an incredible race in your part of the world, and we absolutely adore the Irish Derby, of course. But the English Derby is very, very special. It's found its home at Toaster. You can see what's going on there. What's your kind of impressions, and where do you think it should go?
Yeah, at a risk of repeating myself, from the very first time I saw Toaster, was ever in Toaster, came across Toaster, I've always believed that this was the right place to hold a Derby final. Yes, there are issues with the track. People have always had issues with the track. No track is perfect. Paul Hennessy said that to yourselves last week. I remember reading a piece about it, and he's right. No track is perfect, but I'll tell you something. When it comes to holding the biggest occasion in the UK in greyhound racing, Toaster is the perfect venue to have a party, to have a celebration, and to toast a Derby champion, and a great Derby champion at that. I've absolutely no doubt looking at this year's field. So I've always believed that if you can get to Toaster any night through the competition, you should. But absolutely, there's no excuse to miss the Derby final. You know, it's a special occasion. I said it to our pal JK during the week. Forget about special greyhound occasion. This is a special sporting occasion. There's nothing like a Derby final in England. I've been lucky enough to be to Wimbledon, to Nottingham, to Toaster. Like, it doesn't matter where it is. It's a special, special night. But Toaster, and touch wood, we've been lucky with the weather. If it's a sunny evening and you see people walking in at the start of the night, you see people stumbling out at the end of the night, you know that in between everyone's had a great night, and hopefully again we'll have crowned a Derby champion. Well worth your while to come. And if you can get the Toaster and Derby final night, I'm mad to miss it.
And how do you bet a UK winner versus an Irish trained winner?
That's about 12 on, isn't it?
Well, look, may the UK or the Irish win.
We intend to.
Good luck. And make sure you tune into the first round of the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. It all starts on Thursday night, May the 8th, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Gone to the Dogs live on YouTube. We're there for every single race. Don't miss it.